Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Munch, munch, munch.
Hello and welcome to Daddy Eats Last, where we really just take the piss out of each other's haircuts, and we also discuss the challenges of being a man in modern society. I'm Kane, and joining me tonight is Ryan and Matthew, who has a very shaved head. How are you, Matthew?
I'm very well, thanks, Kane. How are you? And Ryan?
Good.
Doing well, taking the piss out of haircuts. I mean, a male haircut is a challenge for the modern man's life. Let's be honest.
We were discussing this on Wednesday when we caught up, Ryan, that you had a man bun for a while during lockdown. My hair, I'm certainly not one who can throw stones when it comes to haircuts with some of the things I've had over the years on top of my head. But Matthew has gone extremely clean shaven on the head this evening.
He does look like he's rolled out of prison.
On New Year's Eve, after a few drinks, we shaved some mohawks into some of the guys' heads, and I hadn't done anything about it until this weekend. And I said to Kim, look, we're coming into school time. I don't really want to be rocking to school with a shitty looking mohawk. So let's just shave it all off and try and blend it all in. But it's a little bit shorter than I'd liked. But I'm sort of at that stage now where it's too long and the hair looks a bit sort of whispery and sort of patchy, but too short, it just looks like, like you said, I'll come out of prison. So just trying to find the balance.
So you did the mohawk on New Year's Eve. How much had you had to drink at this point of time?
Quite a lot. I was the last one to get it done. So, by the time that everybody else had a few more drinks, there was a lot of cheering and egging on, and the peer pressure just sort of, I don't know. I was always going to get it done that night, I think, but I just sort of waited for the end and warmed the crowd up a bit, I guess, to get the cheers.
Now, what did Kim think of the mohawk? Was she a fan of the mohawk or was she anti-mohawk?
No, she was telling me to get it done very early on in the night. So, yeah, there was comments of "I love you even more," that kind of stuff. So in the end, I just sort of got it done, and yeah, she likes it for some reason. I don't know.
I'll love you even
more. She likes
more.
Tough prison guys or something.
Oh,
that's her thing.
What's been going on, guys? Apart from Matt's wife loving the mohawk, what else has been going on in your lives?
Apart from mohawking, it's been good to be back in Oz, getting a bit of sun, but nevertheless we will venture back to the United Kingdom mid-Feb as opposed to end of Feb, because Australia continues to remain closed from the rest of the nation. So a lot of travel planning. Actually, I should have asked Matty to help me out with it all because he loves his travel planning. But just moving a few flights and a few bits and pieces has been the exciting news of the week.
How's it been working on UK time in Australia? Because it obviously means working sort of, around lunchtime until the early hours of the morning?
It's a bit worse than that. It's sort of working from about 5-6 in the other till about 2-3 in the morning, which isn't too bad. We kind of miss the back end of the UK day, but obviously start a little bit before them. But yeah, I mean, the pro is you get, you sleep until like 10, 11 and you get basically lunchtime through to 5 o'clock free, which is great to enjoy Australia. The con is you are working through until like 2 in the morning.
That's good though. Like you say, like you've managed to enjoy Australia, where the UK this time of year would be maybe 8-9 degrees tops if you're kind of lucky.
Nah, it's like 3-4.
There you go. In Melbourne, it's been pretty much consistent 30s since you've been here, so you've had a pretty good run of weather.
It's been good.
Now, gents, we're going to talk about goals for 2022 this evening. We might need volume 2 because Ryan is good with his goals and he's things he's aiming for during the year. I believe there's quite a bit on his list. Well, I might start with you, Matthew. Goals and plans for 2022. What do you got on your list, sir?
Yeah. So look, there's not a lot on my list, purely because this year is going to be a bit of a year of two halves for Kim and I. Following on from last year, we bought a shop, a bit of a commercial property that we are looking to use as our office. So currently we're renting an office space. but we bought something that we're slowly doing up. So that took a fair bit of time to sort of get going, like finalise and architectural drawings and all that kind of stuff, planning. So it's getting started, work on it now. So a bit of restumping is happening at the moment. So that is sort of going to carry on for the next probably 6 months. And to sort of, because we've sort of done a bit of that kind of stuff, sort of renovating in it, over the last 10 years, we're sort of trying to do a lot of it ourselves. So the next 6 months for Kim and I, we're going to be sort of painting, building kitchens, sort of putting some walls around where we can, and then sort of landscaping as well. And then on top of that as well, the shop property also has a bit of quite a nice backyard space, which, as it's a corner block, has road access. We've also gone and bought a caravan that has a bit of another revenue stream. We're going to renovate that caravan into a coffee van. We've seen it done somewhere else, and it really works really well where it is. So we thought, there's nothing really in the current area where the shop is that sells coffee. Why not put something there? And it's a bit of a thoroughfare for cyclists as well that go past the shop as well. So we figure that we've got the school traffic, because it's right near the kids' school, which is why we bought it as well, because it's close to this kids' school. Plus, it's got the cyclist traffic, all the mums, all that kind of thing. So the first 6 months of this year is going to be renovating this coffee van, getting up to scratch, and also the shop. Plus, there's also, I guess, family life and work as well. So that's sort of, I guess, the but sort of work goals side of the dice.
So are you going to work on your baristaing skills in the next 6 months as well? You work on your Americanas and your lattes and your mochas. Does anyone drink a mocha anymore? I certainly wouldn't touch one, but are you going to be working on those as well?
No, we both know what we can and can't do, and running a coffee shop is probably something we can't do.
But in fairness, if someone ordered a cold Milo, you'd make one of the best ones in town.
Oh yeah, they'd call me in from the inside the shop, and I'd come out and happily do that, because I know how to do that down pat with my eyes closed. But no, we're thinking we will renovate and lease out the van, as well as the sort of outdoor space the van's going to be on. And then someone who knows their coffee, knows how to make a coffee, and can run that kind of thing. They can do their own thing, and then
what a great
strengths. We know
what a great idea. Now, actually, just for the listeners out there, your cold Milo recipe, are you a Milo in the cup before the milk, or the milk goes in and the Milo on top, or a bit of both?
I think it dissolves a lot better if the Milo's in the cup first, and then you just maybe half fill with milk to just really get dissolved, and then top up with more milk. So that's the key. I think if you put it on top and you stir it through, it's got to be a glass as well. It can't be plastic. I feel it dissolves a lot better in a glass for some reason.
Yeah. I was always an advocate of having in the glass and then pouring the milk on top. Sometimes just drinking the milk straight and then just eating the Milo. So, yeah, I think there definitely needs to be some Milo on the bottom of the cup first. What about you, Ryan? Do you have any sort of Milo opinions?
I have no Milo opinions whatsoever. I think I'm taking notes for when I have kids in the future, because it is not my game.
See, we all have different beverage skills. Here we are. That's why I answered. It's a cold Milo caravan, and McTy will be all over it. So that's a massive goal for the next sort of 6 months. Basically, renovating a property in a caravan. That'll take up a lot of your time. You did sort of float something to both Ryan and myself earlier in January that you're looking to do as well, weren't you?
Yes. So that's sort of the work side of things, I guess, and we'll reassess later, maybe June, July, if that's all completed. The goals for the next 6 months. So we'll come back to that. On the fitness side, I've decided to run the Gold Coast Marathon this year, which is on July 3. There's a couple of dads that I sort of hang around with that have done it the previous 2 years. However, due to COVID, they've had to run it sort of virtually. So they're itching to get down there and do it. And I was sort of thinking this would be a goal I'd do later in life, maybe between 40, 45, just when the kid's a little bit older, because I do know from listening to Ryan and other guys who have done marathons how much time it actually takes to train for one. But I think as well on the flip side, that given the fact that I can train with two other guys relatively close to my own age and live in the same area, I think it's probably a good thing to get it over and done with now. So entries don't open for another couple of weeks. I do have a couple of weeks to pull out, but I'm quite confident that I'm going to lock it in. So I've been training. I've been doing running already. I'm just trying to get the K's in the legs, but yeah, I'm super pumped.
You've never been one to pull out of anything, Matthew.
That is correct.
Just before Ryan gets on to giving you any tips on marathon running, the two guys who got you involved in the marathon, were they the same group of guys who got you involved in the Mohawk?
One of them is, yeah. So what could go wrong?
Any tips for Matthew
Nothing.
there, Ryan?
Just don't stop running.
I am trying actually. I was going to say, if you've got any tips, because I'm trying to balance, because for the last few months I've been going to the gym on a regular basis, but I've got to try and balance now bringing running in a few times a week versus going to the gym. I really don't want to stop going to the gym. I don't want that to drop off in any way, shape or form, but I'm realistic. The fact that is I can't train, say, on a Monday and then run on a Tuesday. I'll just be too tired. So if you boys have got any tips around that?
I'd say just do body weight stuff at the gym, because you want to trim down anyway for the run. You don't want to be lifting. You don't want to pick stuff up, put stuff down too much before a run.
Yeah, just
you
maybe
want to go in as light as possible.
Yeah, maybe pare back on the curls, Matthew. I know you love your biceps and you sun's out, guns out sort of scenario, but you might have to pare that back in the lead up to the marathon and just sacrifice your biceps. Just bring back the Mohawk if Kim doesn't love you anymore.
That's true. I've always got that in my back pocket. And the I guess the last one sort of on my list, or a family orientated one, we do have plans for some trips throughout the year, but a more family focused one is, I thought it sort of felt towards the end of last year I wasn't spending as much time, one-on-one time with the kids as I possibly could be. So I'm really going to make an effort this year to just spend 5 minutes each day, an uninterrupted 5 minutes with each child, just to learn about their day, just for them to just, throw anything they want at me, just to, just spend that time with them and connect. I think because of COVID and I guess work and school interrupted, that wasn't there last year as much. And I'd really like to, bring that back this year.
That's fantastic, mate. You 5 minutes for the dog as well?
If there's time, you'll get 5 minutes. Maybe 5 minutes for Kim too, if she gets.
Yeah, just bring the Mohawk back. I think it's great, especially the kid one. I think it's a fantastic one because it's very easy to get caught up in everything else, and actually making a point to devote time to the kids, I think, is a really good one. But you, Ryan, you can basically skip me. I'm not one for planning. It's been sort of. I'll quickly go over why I don't have a plan. I guess the last 150 odd days, going back to sort of August when my wife had an operation, has just been a bit of a blur between her having operation, recovery, lockdown, Christmas, school holidays. We've kind of got to the end of school holidays. Our little fella starts prep tomorrow. And the last sort of 150 odd days have just been an absolute blur. So it's just been kind of next day. So now I hope that we have a bit of runway while the little fella's at school before maybe the inevitability of COVID hits, that I can come up with a plan then. But by then it might be February or March, and we're already a quarter of the way through the year. But Mr. Ebert, because I know you have plans.
I have a few, but I love to hear about Matty's plans. I love this idea of like doing up your own office and coffee by the side of it. I mean, the thing is, like, it would be a great idea for me actually, and I should consider doing that because the amount that I spend on coffee each week would be well reinvested into my own little thing.
If it all turns pear-shaped in the UK, mate, you've got a job in my coffee van.
Well, between the two of you, I know Ryan can knock up a cracking coffee and you can knock up a cracking Milo. So you got a lot of the bases covered.
Do all right. We would do all right. But yeah, so we got a couple, as you mentioned, Kane. I do the goals exercise a fair bit. I've changed it up this year on the advice of a friend of mine, and I figure she's a pretty good person to take advice from because she's played professionally for Australia in 3 different sports. So she's very good at making goals, but effectively was like have less goals, but have themes. and then have a target, a stretch, and a super stretch. So as opposed to having like 10, 20 goals or whatnot, just have a couple of areas and then sort of go, okay, if I just achieve my target, I'll still feel pretty good. Bonus points if I get any of the rest. So I've sort of taken that on board for the 2022 plans here. But yes, we'll go back to the UK and hit the ground running there. So looking at doing a career move is probably a big one for me this year. Sort of coming to the back end of a bit of a corporate turnaround, which I finished kind of end of Q1, beginning of Q2. And then I probably am itching to do something different environment, different challenge, that kind of thing. So career move is definitely one of the goals. How that looks is a bit fluid. So whether it's start another business, whether it's get back into the business that I've got here, spend a bit more time there, whether it's a different role in a different environment, who knows? So that one I'm kind of keeping a bit fluid. Then looking at wealth, really looking much the same as Matty, you know, buying something and building something. All going well, this next week I will settle on some dirt over in Western Australia, not too far from the beach, which I will be able to build a house on, which my mum will go and live in, which will be fantastic. So that's been a goal that's been a long-term goal for a while. So that's going to come into fruition this year, which is really exciting. So wealth is really about, you know, putting that on the portfolio and getting a few other things along the way. But it'll be the first time that I've done a bit of reno stuff, but I've never built a place. Not that I'll actually be the one building it, but I hear that it can be a wonderful experience and a nightmare. So we'll find out where we get to. And then just looking at like growing as part of that wealth thing, we've streamlined some of our business stuff back here in Australia. So that's been another really good reason to get home and just kind of get into that and work a little bit of that and just get a bit more focus. So we've kind of sold off a part of our business and then just really streamlined and launched the strategy this year for our home healthcare business and got some pretty aggressive growth thinking there. So looking to do that and really set that up for a 3, 5, potentially even longer kind of business. Whereas I think when you start these kind of things, as anyone who's listening will know, you sort of start hoping that it goes well, but also accepting that maybe it won't. Whereas we've actually probably overstretched what we thought we'd do in our first 2 years and now have something to really crack on. And then outside of the kind of work and the serious stuff, there is the fun stuff. So a theme of adventure. So finally want to climb Mont Blanc in August this year, having been interrupted for the last 2 years with COVID. Ideally travel to at least 6 countries as well, if not more. But yeah, spend a bit of time being, you know, that so close to Europe. And as part of that, I've been learning Spanish for the last couple of years. So really get conversational and proficient in the language. So when I'm in Madrid in March, which is one of the trips that I've got planned, I can actually be speaking Spanish the whole time. And then a little bit on the health stuff, so trim a little bit back. But one of the things for me this year is actually to take a week where either going to like some cabin in the Nordics or just going somewhere in a forest and just take a week of a complete digital detox. So that's thinking the goals, kind of structuring around a bit of theme of like career, wealth, adventure, business growth, Spanish and health. And then alongside of that is just really to soak up the Cambridge University experience to try and get the most out of that. So a lot of experiential stuff this year is on the cards.
Awesome. How much longer do you have left in I guess especially the Cambridge thing? Does that kind of end towards the end of 2022, or does it how much more ongoing is that?
Yeah, it'll go mid 23. So it's why it's kind of more a thing this year as opposed to a goal per se, because it's actually not going to finish this year.
Yeah. I love the idea of the themes as well. I think that's a great approach to drawing up any sort of plans or goals that you have theme-based things, because then you can just fit, I guess, underlying things into that as well and work towards, like a holistic sort of thing. I think that's a really nice and a smart way of doing it.
Yeah, and I like this is quite different to effectively it's only 6 things this year. But when you look at it from like, okay, what's the target of what's at least what I expect or want to do? What's a stretch, and then what's like some of the super stretches, and some of the super stretches are pretty pretty aspirational. So they get you really excited, and they let you, but they also take a bit of pressure off if you're making a goal. Because if you just set things like that, and you get to the end of the year and you haven't hit any of them, you feel pretty shit about yourself. Whereas if you're like, you know what, I got all my targets, got maybe one super stretch and a couple of stretches, you're feeling pretty good. So first time putting it into practice, but we'll see how it plays out.
I reckon it's great to hear, Ryan, that you've got that parcel of land now in WA for your mum. I mean, we've been talking about that for maybe a year or two now, but to finally tick it off the list, congratulations, mate. That's great.
Thanks, mate. It will be the biggest relief to get that one in play.
You boys have done a really good job putting together a really diverse list of plans between yourselves of the different things you want to get done during the year. I think that's great. I really need to put some thought into plans and goals for myself now. I feel underwhelming.
I think though that, Kane, I've been in your shoes before. When your kid starts prep, it just opens up a whole new timeline for yourself and your partner. So this is probably, once that sort of gets rolling and routine starts happening, and you've got all those days in a week to sort of just focus a bit more, I think you'll be able to knock out a good plan for the year.
Yeah, well, the plan for tomorrow is to go out for lunch with my wife, just to take a breath after the last sort of 6 months, and including being locked down for another sort of 8 or 9 weeks in there towards the mid to late part of 2021. So do that. I might take the rest of Monday off. Monday's usually a pretty quiet day for me on the work front. Not that I'm overly burdened these days anyway, but Monday's especially quiet. So I might just take a day for me tomorrow and have some fun. Get a mohawk. I might get a mohawk. Anyone want to peer pressure me into getting one?
Don't do it.
Maybe stay away from the mohawk. But I mean, that to be honest, that sounds like a beautiful goal in itself. Just taking a day. I think there's a lot of people out there that, myself included, probably need to remember how actually valuable it is to just take a day and be a little bit less harsh on yourself. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, all these things they're individual based stuff. So like, however you choose to plan, be it a day at a time, or sort of a year out with different themes, however you go about it, it's just nice to have some kind of plan somewhere along the line, I think. I think that's a pretty good place to wrap up for this week. I've made enough gags about Matty's hair, so we'll just pull up stumps. And remember to subscribe to Dad Eats Last on iTunes if you haven't already. And while you're there, please leave a review, even if it's about Matthew's mohawk. Tell your mates about the podcast, especially if they are guys. I had to get one more in, didn't I? Most of all, thanks for listening. I'll be back next week with another episode, or should I say serving, of Daddy Eats Last. How's that for a dad joke? Catch you next week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.